My name is Lizzy Hahn. I am an 8th grader at Anvil City Science Academy. My purpose is to retell John's story. I interviewed John Handeland at his office. John enjoys being with his dogs and taking photos of Nome's community. It is November of 2017. In 1974, a storm came through Nome, destroying many houses on Front Street. John Handeland experienced the storm when he was 14 years old.
At the time, I was actually working with Caroline Reeder at the elementary school, and I was a student aide there. And Caroline actually lived down the street from me. And about 10 or 11 o'clock in the evening on November 11th, I believe it was, or maybe the 10th, 1974, I got a call to go to work because they were going to open up the school as an emergency shelter for people. And so during that time, for about a week, the elementary school was closed, and it was just used for emergency shelter. We had quite a few people that actually stayed there, and I remember sitting and playing cards in the office with some of the folks that were there. We had meal service that we provided, and being some of the power stuff had been damaged, and there was some flooding out here at the powerhouse. The power had to be rotated around town, and you get power for a little bit, and then they'd give it to somebody else, and then you get it back again later. But yeah, people were definitely impacted down around Front Street. There were big tanks that were floating around there, big propane tanks, probably 20 feet long or something like that, and those went around and damaged, started floating and started damaging things. And there were some barges that they used to use before we had the port out here. And at that point, they had these little barges that would bring the stuff back and forth from the big boat out in the ocean to land. During the winter, they would put those up on the shore and on some skids, and the water got so high that it started those barges floating, and they just started banging in and breaking buildings and moving houses around.
John Handeland was 14 years old when the storm of 74 came crashing onto Nome's Front Street, affecting many. The storm had a very big impact on Nome. It washed out a few houses, and people had to be evacuated because it was far too dangerous.
The storm happened on the first day that Leon Boardway came to Nome. And so Leon, who works at the visitor center now, his first residence in Nome was at the emergency shelter at the elementary school. And so I've known Leon since 1974. The Silvernail family, I remember them living there as well in the shelter. Mrs. Silvernail was the postmaster later on, but she was the one I remember sitting there playing cards with, and Marty and his brother were there. I don't remember now, and I may have it written down somewhere, who else was in the shelter at that time, but there were 40 or 50 people that actually stayed at the school for pretty much a week.
The water went into people's basements and flooded them. Planes with food couldn't land because the runway had water on it. Many people didn't have power and had to go to the elementary school to get a free meal because there was no power throughout Nome. Some people had to seek shelter at the elementary school due to flooded houses. One house split in half due to the strong waters.
Yeah, but so like the AC store was downtown, and they had a full basement full of stuff, and being it had been damaged by the water, that had to all be taken away. There were liquor establishments on Front Street too that had their winter storage underneath their basement, and so there were federal marshals that actually came into town to supervise the destruction of the alcohol that was taken to the dump that used to be on the road where the landfill, or where the landfill is now, out towards the jail. And there were some crafty people, though, that managed to bring some of what had been taken to the dump and supposedly crushed back into town.
After cleaning up Nome, the total cost for fixing everything was about $30 million. They had to throw away the food or drinks that were in the basement of the old AC store. They had to send in people to supervise the throwing away of the alcohol in stores. It was several weeks till they had finished cleaning up the damage. Thank you to John Handeland for letting me interview him about the storm of 1974.